My name is Paula and I'm an occupational therapist working at Tallaght University Hospital. So now that you've watched our first video about osteoarthritis or inflammatory arthritis, which explains how your arthritis can affect your joints and how you can manage your symptoms, we hope that you've had a chance to reflect on your daily activities and consider how your arthritis is affecting your daily life at home, at work, at school, or during your leisure activities. You might have identified some challenging tasks, or you may have found that during or at the end of the day you've noticed pain and fatigue. In this video, myself and my colleague Susan will share with you some very practical information about two particular areas that can help you to manage your arthritis further: how to care for and protect your joints, and how to manage your energy or pain levels. We've talked before about having a plan B, an alternative or smarter way of carrying out a task that's kinder to your joints and your symptoms. So we'll now look at how you can develop new habits and routines, use a new technique, a piece of equipment, or a pacing strategy in everyday tasks to decrease your pain and manage your fatigue, and to give you the confidence and independence to manage regardless of how your arthritis is affecting you at the moment.
The advice and the tips that will be shared here are intended to be used as part of your treatment with an occupational therapist. So if you're not already in contact with an OT, please see our first videos on osteoarthritis and inflammatory arthritis for advice on how to get linked in with a service. As OTs, we help you to look at the roles in your life and how your arthritis is affecting those roles. So as a parent or partner, as a student, a colleague, or a teammate. So firstly, we'd encourage you to think about the tasks that you routinely complete in your different daily roles. This could be at home in your personal care, so getting washed or dressed. In the home, making meals, doing laundry, hoovering, the garden, or managing transport, so getting in and out of the car, gripping the steering wheel, changing gears, or navigating public transport. In your work role, so managing some technology or using a piece of work equipment. Or in your social and leisure roles, so meeting friends, playing sport, getting in and out of the pool, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. This list of tasks will be different for each person watching this video, and therefore the way in which your arthritis affects your daily life will be equally different. So we're not here to give you all the answers because that would be impossible. We are here to support you with information and tools that will allow you to become your own problem solver, and to figure out where and when to put the plan B into action.
So what does protecting your joints really mean? Well, let's start by talking about what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean wrapping yourself up in cotton wool or stopping the activities that you need to or want to do every day. It means doing your valued activities with a little more care for and awareness of your joints during the activity. So it might be using a new technique or a pacing strategy, or spending a shorter amount of time doing the task if it's repetitive. Completing tasks with less strain can protect the joint from changes and manage your symptoms a little bit better. You may notice that a lot of our examples relate to hand and finger joints, and that is often the focus of OT, and you can link with physiotherapy as well if other joints are your main problem. Joint protection is often used alongside exercise and splinting, and your OT and physiotherapist will talk to you more about that as well. You may have found that you're instinctively changing the way you're doing things because the old way of doing them caused pain or tiredness, or that the jar or the bottle just wouldn't open for you. So today, hopefully, what we'll do is give you a little bit of background knowledge as to why those changes may have worked for you, and also to help you plan future changes as you become your own problem solver going forward from today. We'll talk you through some of the most important aspects of caring for your joints and give you practical examples of how you can use them day to day. So these include how to spread the weight of an object over several joints, use larger, stronger joints for the job, use joints in their most stable position, avoid tight grips, use less effort in tasks, and respect pain and fatigue.
You may have noticed that the joints that can be inflamed or symptomatic are often the smallest joints in your hands or wrists. They're some of the smallest joints in your body, and yet they take on a lot of pressure during your daily tasks. So if you're carrying a plate to the dinner table, like this, you use your thumb and your fingers to grip it. But we know from research studies that however much pressure you apply to the top of your thumb, 12 times that force is felt at the base of your thumb, which is why that joint is often a painful joint for many people that we meet with arthritis. So to make the task easier, you can try to spread the weight across your hand, or even better, across two hands. Similarly, when you pour the kettle, making a cup of tea, try and get the second hand in, so that the weight is spread across both hands rather than loaded onto your dominant hand, or the hand which is least painful. This principle can be used in many tasks. For example, instead of carrying a toolkit, like this, hold it with two hands, like this. Or instead of carrying a plant pot in the garden, like this, hold it underneath, like this. Always try to keep as much of your hand in contact with the object as possible.
It's also helpful to think about ways that you can use larger, stronger joints, which can cope with the weight of an object better than the small finger joints. So if, for example, you found yourself carrying a heavy shopping basket, maybe the next time remember to get a wheelie basket or a small trolley, so then your arm and your shoulder muscles can take the weight rather than just the finger muscles. Also, try moving away from handheld bags to shoulder bags, or better still, backpacks, so your bigger joints are taking the weight of those objects. The same goes for if you're carrying something like this, a folder or a file, rather than relying on your finger joints, bringing it close to your body so your arms become involved as well. So as we've spoken about before, we know that in arthritis sometimes the structures around our joints can become weaker, either due to inflammation or normal age changes. So we always want to try to use our joints in their most stable or straight position. We don't want to push them in directions that we know are not helpful. So firstly, always try to position things in your comfort zone, and this minimises your bending and stretching. So think about maybe adjusting the steering column or the seat in your car or your office or study chair, or maybe bring your favourite mug or plate onto a lower shelf in the kitchen so that they're easier for you to reach. So throughout the day, consider the following. Avoid lifting heavy things that pull your wrists downwards. So it's really important that you work with your wrist in a straight position. If it's being pulled downwards, it means that the weight of what you're lifting is too heavy for that joint. So bring the second hand in and you will find that both wrists can work in a straight position. Using an ergonomic knife changes the way that you cut or slice items and allows you to maintain neutral wrist and finger positions during this task. And always be mindful of tasks that push your fingers sideways. This happens easily as many things we do put sideways pressure on our fingers. So when you open a jar like this, your fingers are pushed over to one side. And the same occurs when you pick up a mug that doesn't have quite enough space for your fingers to fit.
Consider also how a task can be of less effort. This can be as simple as using the trolley for the food shop, rather than hoping the basket will suffice and regretting that decision by the third aisle. Reduce the weight of what you lift, and if you can't reduce it, then try to slide it along the surface rather than lift it and put strain on your joints. Also make sure you have the best tool for the job that you're doing. This could be a sharp scissors or knife, a wheelbarrow or trolley for the garden, or a two-handled saucepan or colander for draining vegetables or pasta. There is a wealth of alternative equipment out there these days for you to try to reduce the effort involved, making tasks easier and less painful for you. Your occupational therapist will help guide you through the process of which ones would be most beneficial for you. But some of the key ones we find helpful for our clients include using a piece of Dyson or a jar or bottle opener to reduce the forces through your hands and increase your independence in opening these items, a thick Y-shaped peeler for vegetables, ergonomic knives for chopping vegetables, using a plug pull to help you take your plugs out without that tricky fingertip grip, a two-handled saucepan, or electric tin openers. There are many tasks in our day that we use a tight grip for, and these grips put a lot of pressure on our thumb and finger joints. This could be when you're writing, knitting, working, or doing some DIY. So to reduce the strain on your joints, we suggest the following ideas. Take frequent breaks to rest your fingers. This could mean setting an alarm if you forget to stop. Also check your grip. If your knuckles are white with effort, try to consciously relax your grip. And consider breaking these more intensive tasks out across the day rather than doing them in one long block, and we'll talk again about this later. If you use a Y-shaped vegetable peeler instead of a knife to spread the load across your joints, this will reduce the pressure on your thumb and index finger. When writing, using a thicker, contoured pen will reduce your need to grip tightly. A gel or felt pen can also require less force, allowing you to relax your grip. Or a sloped surface for writing, even on a hardback ring binder on its side, can help make a big difference. Use padding or sports tape to make your tools wider and easier to hold. This could be your toothbrush, your steering wheel, or your screwdriver. So ask your OT for guidance if needed.
If you have been provided with working splints or compression gloves to support your joints in activities, please do remember to wear them during the activity, as that's where you will get the most benefit from them. If you use them in conjunction with the techniques that we talked about today, then you will get maximal benefit. A lot of what we have discussed today already is about matching your environment or the world around you to your needs. These simple environmental changes can make a big impact on your quality of life. Now we're going to move on to discuss how you can make changes to your own routines and your own activity patterns so that you can work around and live with the pain and fatigue that is sometimes inevitable with your arthritis. These changes to routines can be equally as powerful and effective, but they can be a little bit harder to master, and they do require practice, but hopefully you will start to reap the benefits sooner rather than later. So in line with this, the final aspect of joint protection that we will talk about today is how to respect pain and fatigue. They're both common symptoms, and for many tasks, particularly where there isn't a magic gadget or where using two hands isn't going to make the difference, the best thing you can do is to pace how you do the task.
So what pacing simply means is that rather than doing a task all in one go, you break it up into chunks that your body finds easier to manage. This may mean allowing extra time to complete the task, but it should allow you to do the task more effectively with less resulting pain and fatigue afterwards. If you remember back to school days when you were doing an essay or exam, you pushed through and kept writing, even when your hand was really tired and your writing became more and more difficult to read, and you were left with a sore hand at the end of it all. This may have been okay in a one-off exam situation, but we don't want this to become our normal way of getting through daily tasks, washing all the windows in one go or painting the whole room, just to get it done no matter what the consequences are. So it's a good idea to build breaks into your activities. As for how often you need to take a break, this will depend on your body and can fluctuate depending on how active your arthritis is at the time. What we often use as a guide is what we call the 80% rule. So basically, if you know that pain or fatigue can become an issue after 20 minutes of doing an activity like writing or typing or going for a walk, then what you aim to do is stop at 80% of that time. So stop at 15 minutes. You therefore prevent yourself hitting the wall and allow yourself some time to rest and recover before returning to the activity or moving on to something else.
As you can imagine, you're more likely to do this successfully if you plan it in advance. So you might want to set a timer on your phone or oven, or get a family member to remind you to stop the activity. And there are lots of apps on phones and computers that can beep or pop up to cue you to stop the task. Or you might decide that every time you hear an ad on the radio, you're going to take a 2-minute break. But putting this into action can make a real difference to how you enjoy these tasks. So consider the scenario where you may have family or friends over for dinner and you've worked so hard and you're so tired by the time that they arrive that you really just don't enjoy the occasion. However, if you had planned and paced the task, you can sit down and enjoy the food and the company. And this can be achieved by maybe choosing the meal wisely. So something that you can prepare in advance, like a curry, or get some pre-prepared vegetables, or get somebody else to help, let somebody else bring dessert. Another way that you can pace your tasks is have a think about how demanding each task is. So if you have a list of jobs to do, mix up the ones that are harder and the ones that are easier. So you might find if you're doing a long session of typing that you mix it up with a trip to the photocopier, or if you're doing a long session of weeding in the garden that you mix that up with some watering or some lighter garden tasks.
When you go to plan your day and weigh up what you have to do, you need to prioritise what are the most important things that you need to get done that day. So if after you've done those things you don't have the energy for the other items on your list, then they can be done another day and may be a higher priority later in the week. For example, if you're starting to iron clothes, iron the ones you need for the next day first. Or if you're a teacher, prepare the work for the following day first. Consider also what items you're in the habit of doing but don't need to be done by you and can either be delegated to someone else or done less frequently. This could be the laundry that could be done by other members of your household, or a physically demanding work task that could be done by an apprentice or a colleague that you work with. With the demands of normal life and the sometimes unpredictable nature of arthritis, it's important to achieve a balance of rest and activity across the week. And sometimes people describe to us a yo-yo pattern of activity that they can't seem to break, where a really productive busy day is followed by days where you're too sore or exhausted to do much. So what we want to avoid is these peaks and troughs of activity in your activity level. So to find your balance of the amount of activity that your body is happy with working at, so that you have a similar level of activity and rest throughout the week.
We also recommend that for your physical and your mental health that you get a mix of activities throughout the day. Often the first area to be put on hold is your social or leisure activities. So it's important to keep a balance of the things that you need to do and the things you want to do. So if you want to go for a walk or meet a friend or read a chapter of a book, you need to plan and pace yourself that day and factor in some rest so that you still have enough energy at the end of the day to do the enjoyable things as well. Also remember that if you have a flare-up or if the weather is affecting your symptoms, you may need to look again at your activity levels and pace more often or take more rest periods to allow your body to recover. And when that period passes, you can build yourself back up slowly again and get back to an activity level that your body is happy with at that time.
We acknowledge that the information in this video may sound straightforward and common sense, but that it can be a real challenge to put into practice. It may feel like changing the habits of a lifetime, and we all know that this is never easy. So take some time to digest the information and put the supports in place that will help you to make some of the changes we've suggested. Talk to your occupational therapist to get some practical help in implementing joint protection and pacing. This might be to trial a piece of equipment or to use an activity diary, which might help you to prioritise what changes may be most useful for you at this time. See what Arthritis Ireland has to offer by looking at their website or calling their helpline. They have online forums, Facebook groups, exercise classes, and a 6-week self-management course covering some of the topics that we've touched on in these videos. Or if you're finding it difficult to achieve a balance that we talked about today, have a look in your local library or community centre and for the many classes and courses that are available there. Maybe by committing to a 6-week stress management class or a cookery course or going to a book club, you're making the first step in planning some rest and balance into your week.
So we really hope that you found today's video helpful in giving you guidelines to protect your joints as you go about your daily tasks and ways that you can manage your pain and fatigue as part of that. This video is designed to be part of your OT treatment, so do link back in with your OT if you have more questions about your specific activities and roles, and we have lots more of practical tips and advice that have worked for other people that may also work for you. So try now to go away and take a fresh look at your daily activities to see if you can find ways to spread the weight of an object over several joints, use larger, stronger joints for the job, use joints in their most stable position, avoid tight grips, use less effort in tasks, and respect pain and fatigue. So thanks again for taking the time to join us today, and we wish you luck in exploring what your plan B might mean for you.